The night was thick with heat and silence, the kind that weighed heavy on the bones. In the outskirts of Nyla, where the city lights faded into the endless horizon, a boy named Malik crouched behind a rusting hangar at Jomo Yada International Airport. His heart pounded like a war drum. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a runaway. He was a dreamer. And tonight, he would reach for the impossible. Europe. The word had been a whisper in his ears for years. The land of opportunities, the place where his older brother had once promised to take him before disappearing into the unknown. Now, Malik would go alone. He had no passport, no ticket, just a reckless courage forged by desperation. He had spent weeks studying the flight schedules, sneaking onto the tarmac, watching how the ground crews worked. He knew the risks, how the temperatures in the sky could drop to a merciless minus 50 degrees Celsius, how the oxygen would thin to nothing. But those fears had been crushed beneath a greater one, the fear of being stuck. Tonight was the night. A Boeing 777 was set for takeoff to London. Cargo was being loaded. The underbelly of the aircraft, a labyrinth of steel and hydraulics, beckoned him. Moving like a shadow, Malik crept toward the plane, heart hammering in his throat. He timed his movement with the last-minute rush of the crew, slipping beneath the aircraft unnoticed. The wheel well. That was his coffin and his salvation. It was a space barely large enough to curl into, surrounded by freezing metal and oil-stained hydraulics. The smell of burnt rubber and fuel was overwhelming, but Malik forced himself to stay still. Then, a loud whir. The ground trembled. The plane lurched forward. His stomach twisted as the aircraft accelerated, engines roaring like a beast awakening. A deep fear clawed at his chest, but he clenched his jaw. No turning back. Then, liftoff. Gravity slammed into him as the wheels retracted, crushing him between metal and fate. Darkness swallowed him whole. The air turned razor-sharp. He gritted his teeth, gripping onto the freezing steel. The altitude climbed. Higher, higher. And then, the real battle began. At 30,000 feet, the cold became a monster. It sank its fangs into his skin, turning his breath into mist, numbing his fingers until he wasn't sure they were even there. He curled tighter, pressing his body against the machinery that still carried traces of ground heat. But it wasn't enough. His chest ached. Air, air. It was slipping from him, thinning like a cruel trick. His vision blurred. His heartbeat slowed. His mother's voice whispered in his fading mind. Malik, wake up. The world turned black. Hours later, a jolt. The impact rattled his bones. The landing gear unfolded beneath him. The force threw him against the steel, knocking the breath from his lungs. The plane touched down with a deafening roar. Malik's eyes fluttered open. His limbs refused to move. His skin felt dead, his blood sluggish. But he was alive. Alive. The wheels screeched. The plane slowed. A wave of heat rolled through the undercarriage. Malik sucked in the thick, sweet breath of Earth's air. The scent was foreign. He had made it. The plane taxied. The belly of the aircraft trembled. The moment the ground crew approached, he knew he had only seconds. He moved, forcing himself to roll out of the compartment just as the wheels hissed to a stop. Cold, stiff legs collapsed under him. His knees hit the tarmac. His lungs burned as he dragged in desperate breaths. Shouts. A voice. Foreign. English. Footsteps rushed toward him. He looked up, blinking against the sudden flood of light. Men in uniforms surrounded him, their faces twisted in shock, disbelief. And then, finally, Malik smiled. He had conquered the sky. Malik barely felt the hands gripping his arms, hauling him up from the tarmac. His body was sluggish, his skin deathly cold. His ears rang from the roaring engines and the rush of blood returning to his limbs. They took him into a small airport security room, wrapped him in blankets, and bombarded him with questions. Where are you from? Why did you do this? But Malik barely answered. His mind was still spinning. Then, something unexpected happened. The media found his story. Within days, news stations ran the headline. Asterisk, teenage stowaway survives near-death flight from Africa to London. Asterisk, people were stunned. Experts debated how he had survived. Scientists analyzed the odds. Some called for compassion, others for deportation. But one story caught Malik's attention. A man had come forward. A man claiming to be his brother. His heart pounded as he sat in front of a television in the immigration holding center. The screen showed an interview with a man in his 20s, his face older, sharper, but unmistakable. If it's really Malik, then he's my little brother. I never thought I'd see him again. Tears burned Malik's eyes. He had found him. Or maybe, just maybe, fate had brought them back together. 2 days later, they met. Idris walked into the room. Taller, broader, a stranger, and yet the same. Malik. His voice cracked on the name. Malik clenched his jaw, anger and longing warring inside him. You left me. Idris exhaled sharply. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought if I could just get on my feet first, I could send for you. But time, it slipped away. You promised. The word cut through the air like a blade. Then, Idris did something Malik didn't expect. He dropped to his knees. I failed you. His voice was hoarse. I won't fail you again. Whatever it takes, I'll fix this. I'll fight to keep you here. Malik stared at him, his anger trembling, threatening to crumble under the weight of something else, something deeper. Hope. But hope was dangerous. Swear it. His voice was barely a whisper. Idris looked up, his eyes burning with the same fire Malik had once admired. I swear. What came next was a battle. Immigration debated whether to deport Malik or grant him asylum. Activists argued that sending him back would be cruel. Others claimed laws should not be broken, no matter the circumstances. But Idris fought. He found lawyers. He stood before judges. He became the brother Malik had needed all along. And then, after weeks of uncertainty, the verdict came. Malik Adon, the judge said, due to the extraordinary circumstances of your case and your status as a minor, this court grants you discretionary leave to remain in the United Kingdom under the guardianship of your brother, Idris Adon. Malik turned to Idris, their eyes meeting. For the first time in years, Malik smiled. He had defied the sky, and now he had a future. No dream is too distant, no obstacle too great when the will to fight burns brighter than fear. Malik's journey was proof that survival is not just about strength, but about hope, love, and the belief that a better life is always worth reaching for. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe to support more tales of courage and resilience. Every journey deserves to be heard.